Everybody thank Donald Trump and Nicki Minaj. We just bombed Nigeria on Christmas Day. Yep. Associated Press is reporting on the, quote, deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians, unquote. This is going to be another Venezuela. Venezuela is already turning into another, quote unquote, war on terror, and both of those campaigns, like the one in the Middle East or the one we're seeing now in South America, are based on lies. Lies about weapons of mass destruction in oil-heavy countries. It's a simple play, really. Lie about a threat from an oil-heavy country, send your college-age kids to fight, get the oil, and let the cards fall as they may. This is the craziest instance to me because even if they could prove the anti-Christian terrorism was not a lie, when is it our job to intervene in that ever? The US is a country with no official religion. The First Amendment guarantees that separation of church and state. For us to still be sending the military powers of the state to defend foreign members of a church. If that doesn't tell you they're there for something else, I have an igloo to sell you in Jamaica. Let's just use our heads for a second.
Stage and calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief. I stand here as a proud New Yorker with a deep sense of gratitude that we live in a country where we can freely and safely worship God regardless of one's creed, background, or politics. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion, like I recently stated on social media. And we don't have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect each other. We're way beyond thinking or expecting or assuming for, the person sitting next to you to have the exact same beliefs. We're beyond that. That's ridiculous. But that shouldn't make one person feel less safe than anyone in any room. Music has taken me around the globe. I have seen how people, no matter their language, culture, or religion, come alive when they hear a song that touches their soul. Religious freedom means we all can sing our faith regardless of who we are, where we live, and what we believe. But today, faith is under attack in way too many places. First of all, Nigeria is a place I've always loved. Someone very dear to me, my pastor, is Nigerian. I have lots of Nigerian barbs. And so hearing that people are being kidnapped, and while they're in church, people are being kidnapped, people are being killed, brutalized, all because of their religion. And that should spark outrage in the great America. And that's what it did.
I think I'm more irritated because I told you guys that Nicki was being literally used as I literally walked you through the thought process as to why they used Nicki Minaj to push this message that Nigeria is having a genocide. And look, America just conducted strikes in Nigeria. Now, if you were watching any one of my other videos where I was speaking about Nicki Minaj and what she was doing with Donald Trump in the UN, specifically speaking out about the Christian genocide that's happening in Nigeria that I specifically said is not happening. And to the people in the comments, if you were reading the comments, to everybody who specifically tried to reiterate to me that it is happening, I asked them to give me a source, a news source, a credible news source that was not pushing Anglo Saxon views through a Christian crusade, all because they want to push out eugenics and capitalism. Mind you, I said this. I said this is exactly why they brought Nicki Minaj. That's exactly why they brought her Turning Point USA. I said all this. I'm going to tag all the videos. Because again, what is this? What is this? What is this? Come on. I just asked for any source that's not doing that. And they cannot provide me a source. And now the US has launched strikes in Nigeria. Now explain to me how the US launching strikes in Nigeria isn't an Anglo-Saxon group of people performing a crusade, a Christian crusade, on a nation where they have specifically released sources that there is no specific genocide towards Christians. People are being murdered on purpose for a reason in mass numbers. Regardless of their religion, regardless of their tribes. Like, please. And still, here we go again. The United States of America, an Anglo-Saxon country, pushing a Christian crusade through the guise of using capitalism and goddamn eugenics, bro. Like, I can't believe that we're literally walking I'm at a loss for words because this is so nonsensical. I'm not understanding how nobody's seeing it. It's very irritating, and God forbid they take away and repeal Section 230 or decide that they want to pass COSA. What I'm saying right now would put me on a list. Exactly for me speaking my First Amendment rights. Why? Because according to the list they released, this is big T org. This is a big T org that I'm doing right now. Communicate my First Amendment rights and concern for a nation that we have no business doing airstrikes with. And when I said earlier this year that his new axis of power would be everything, including Israel, the United States of America, China, and Russia, and now all of a sudden we're involved in airstrikes not only in Venezuela, but also in Nigeria. Mind you, y'all don't got no jobs or eggs. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. Because that's the fact.
This morning, new details emerging about the U.S. strikes in Nigeria on Christmas. The Pentagon releasing this video, a U.S. warship firing a Tomahawk cruise missile from the Gulf of Guinea. A U.S. official telling ABC News more than a dozen missiles were launched. In a village targeted by the strikes in northwest Nigeria, residents searched through the rubble of their homes, now leveled after the strikes. The next day, locals gathering as police sweep the site of a missile strike.
I quickly rushed this morning to come and see the level of damage that this has given to the community. Glory be to God, there was no loss of life and no much damage to the properties.
President Trump saying he ordered the strikes against terrorists who, quote, have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. The president saying he delayed the strikes for symbolic reasons, telling Politico, quote, they were going to do it earlier, and I said, nope, let's give a Christmas present. The Pentagon says multiple ISIS terrorists were killed. U.S. and Nigerian officials confirming they worked together on the operation. Analysts tell ABC News the reality on the ground in Africa's most populous country, home to millions of Christians and Muslims, is complex.
Christians are not the sole target of ISIS in Nigeria. They have been indiscriminate in their violence against Christians, Muslims, civilians, government, it doesn't matter.
Nigeria's government responding to the strikes overnight, saying terrorist violence in any form, whether directed at Christians, Muslims, or other communities, remains an affront to Nigeria's values and to international peace and security.
There's this campaign that Western media is trying to actually push. They're trying to push a campaign that Christians are dying in Nigeria. Not Nigerians, Christians. Do you understand? They're trying to push like Christianity is like a kind of body, right? Where people from every culture can serve a Western god or a Jewish Abrahamic god. So everybody, even if they are Africans, even if they are Europeans and Asians, they will have to now come and fight because of that god. Do you understand? Since the time of Obasanjo, Nigeria has been having unrest in the north. The people that have suffered more from the unrest are Muslims. Since you guys want to divide us and conquer us, Muslims, it is not Christians. Muslims. You see, terrorism does not care. Terrorism does not care if you are Muslim, Christian, white, black, Buddhism, Taoism, Onye Odinani, Onye Ifa. Terrorism does not care. What Nigeria is facing is terrorism. A few months ago, this same fucking Western media in the US, through USAID, was exposed for funding terrorism in this country. These same people are the same people that is telling us that we're killing Christians. So a Christian life is better than an African life. It is Africans that is fucking dying. Nigerians, it is not Christians.
United States forces have launched missile strikes against the Islamic State group in northwest Nigeria. US Africa Command said they were carried out in coordination with the Nigerian authorities and killed what it called multiple IS terrorists in Sokoto State. Nigeria says it was involved in the planning of the operation, and the US military posted a video showing a missile being launched from a naval vessel. On social media, President Trump described the Islamic State group as terrorist scum and accused the group of targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. While speaking to the BBC World Service, the Nigerian foreign minister defended the military action.
What I can confirm is a joint operation between Nigeria and the US that has targeted terrorists. It has nothing to do with a particular religion. It is, as far as we're concerned, targeting terrorists that have been attacking Nigerians, period.
I don't care what you do. Start a fucking war. Just don't let them get out. If I go down, I will bring all of you down.
Are you guys still so sure that leaked phone call was AI?
Good morning. Christmas Day bombing in Nigeria. My sources have informed me that Trump authorized the bombing of Nigeria on Christmas Day, a sovereign independent state. The reason for the bombing was because Christians are being killed in Nigeria. I have to say to the whole world, it's not just Christians that are being killed in Nigeria. Muslims are also being killed in Nigeria. Who is protecting Muslims in Nigeria? Will Saudi Arabia now bomb Nigeria to protect Muslims? Where was the Nigerian army when the US army invaded Nigeria's airspace? I condemn the invasion, and I urge all African nations, including its allies, to condemn this invasion of the US army on Nigeria. Where is the British government? Nigeria is a Commonwealth nation. This is not going to help Nigeria in any shape or form. And I urge the African Union to respond accordingly. Thank you.
America didn't bomb Nigeria because of oil. That story does not make any sense. If you know anything about Nigeria's oil industry or Nigerian politics, you'll know that the story is completely false. And I say this for multiple reasons because, for one, if we go into Nigerian history, 30 years ago in the 1990s, the Nigerian government worked with Shell, a Western corporation, to massacre more than 2,000 civilians. As in, the Nigerian government killed 2,000 civilians to protect Western oil corporations. The civilians were protesting against oil spills and lack of development. The Nigerian government just massacred them. Please tell me why America would bomb a country that's willing to kill its own civilians to protect America's oil. Doesn't make sense. Secondly, Nigeria's oil export terminals, as in the platforms we have to use to store oil before it's even exported, as in we cannot export oil without these terminals. 5 of the 6 of them are owned by foreign corporations. 5 out of 6 of Nigeria's oil export terminals are owned by foreign Western oil corporations. 4 out of 6, I think, are American. Texaco, Chevron, ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil owns 2, if I'm not mistaken. So all of our oil resources are already owned by America. It doesn't make sense for America to bomb Nigeria to gain access to what it already owns. And beyond all that, if you really want to tell the story that America bombed Nigeria because of oil, why exactly did America go to the complete other side of the country to bomb? Most of Nigeria's oil resources are in the south region, or eastern region, if you want to be specific, Niger Delta area. So why exactly would America go ahead and bomb the northwestern extremities of Nigeria if it was bombing them for oil? It doesn't make sense. Guys, please, when we want to look at these things, let's try and actually understand the politics on ground and understand how these economies work. It's not just oil every single time. Sometimes the story is a lot more complicated and nuanced than that. And in this situation, it's very nuanced. It's not oil at all. It's much grander. America just bombed Nigeria, but how exactly did we get here? This is not a story about oil at all. Nothing to do with oil. This is a story about the complete collapse of a Nigerian state and a renewed imperialist agenda inside of America, embodied by the Trump administration. Let's get into it. 10 years ago, Goodluck Jonathan was president of Nigeria, and under his administration, there was a massive fight against Boko Haram, as in massive offensive against Boko Haram to fully end Islamic extremism inside of the country. But what ended up making this battle a losing one was the fact that America imposed a ban on arms. Yes, you heard it. The American government under Obama stopped the complete sale of weaponry to the Nigerian government under Goodluck Jonathan under the guise of human rights. This meant the Nigerian government was lacking guns, fighter jets, ammunition, anything it could use fight against the terrorists, and that led to an explosion in the activities and fully cemented our position inside of Nigeria, right? But the interesting aspect of this is that the moment that administration ended, as in once we went from Jonathan to Buhari, suddenly the arms ban was lifted, and Obama met with Buhari in the White House and approved the sale of 12 fighter jets to the Nigerian government, despite there not being any real change in human rights policy or action of the Nigerian government and Nigerian army. They were willing to suddenly sell arms. And if you remember this video I made earlier this year, you will know that the American government was instrumental in making sure that Buhari defeated Jonathan in that election. So now the question becomes, why exactly was America so intent on allowing terrorism to fester inside of Nigeria and allow for Buhari to become president instead of Jonathan? And the answer to that question is twofold. Firstly, America was doing it to neuter the growth of a superpower within the region. And secondly, America was likely doing it in order to ensure that there were puppets or allies in power who would protect and further American interests in the region. And we saw very clearly that Buhari did exactly this, because in 2021, he announced this. He openly called for AFRICOM, the American military's African corps, to set up base on the African continent, likely inside of Nigeria. This was a complete 180 from the policy of the previous Nigerian president, who was completely opposed to Western intervention and Western presence inside of Africa. He even went further to call for increased US involvement in West African security, claiming that African nations were completely incapable of dealing with insecurity by themselves. So America orchestrated the placing of Buhari into power to ensure that there was a clean road for them to enter into governance, enter into our politics, enter into our land, and begin to intervene. And that is what culminated in the bombing that we saw today. But there's more to this story. And when I say there's more to this, I really mean it, because we can look at it from two different perspectives. We can look at it from an American one and a Nigerian one. If we focus first upon the American perspective, we will see that inside of domestic American politics, there are two main currents. We have the current that wants to reassert America as an empire, and the current that wants to reassert Christian nationalism inside of America. If we focus upon one that wants to reassert America as an empire, Trump is the embodiment of this fully. Trump is going around the world making America the deal breaker of sorts. America's just saying, oh, end this conflict, peace deal here, bomb here, bomb here, bomb here, bomb there. And no one can do anything. America is the empire that can decide what is right inside of the world. And Trump going into West Africa and just bombing terrorists anyhow is him showing that America has the power to deal with anyone, anywhere in the world. And just to really get this point across, America used Tomahawk missiles. That is a very heavy and expensive payload. America was like trying to prove a point by using these missiles in the first place. That's speculation, but I think there's some truth to that. And then secondly, the Christian nationalist currents. If we look inside American politics, Trump largely won the election because of Christian nationalism and far-right individuals. So Trump going into Nigeria and claiming that he's going in to save Christians is him helping to gain votes for the next election. He's generally calling the Christian nationalist vote and making them feel as if there's generally a global Christian world order that's willing to protect Christians across the world. Trump was very strategic in that sense. And finally, the Nigerian perspective, which I think is the most important in this whole situation, because I always go back to 2015 when Buhari won the election. But what I left out is the fact that the Nigerian ruling class orchestrated his victory. It was largely a local effort. America did not orchestrate the whole thing from abroad. Rather, they took advantage of the actions of Nigerian ruling class to feed into their own interests. Listen well. The victory of Buhari in 2015 was a local effort by the Nigerian ruling class, and America simply took advantage of that situation. I want you to really remember that fact, because the Nigerian ruling class is the reason why we are where we are today. This is a ruling class with no vision for the people, with no vision for the Nigerian nation state. And that is why there's been a complete lack of development in every single facet of the Nigerian state. No good roads, no good education, no good healthcare, no electricity. The most basic services that the state is meant to provide are non-existent inside of Nigeria because the ruling class has no intention of providing them and no vision on how to provide them. And we are now reaching a point where the Nigerian state itself is collapsing. There's so much internal division, there's terrorism, all these different factors that are pulling apart the Nigerian state. And instead of ruling class to come up with innovative solutions, some form of shake-up to change the political and economic structures inside of Nigeria, Rather, the solution that they have found is to call upon foreign powers to enter our country and solve issues for us. And that's why we are where we are. The Nigerian government, instead of dealing with insecurity, called for America to deal with it. The Nigerian government, instead of reforming its tax regime, called upon for France to do it. The Nigerian government, instead of doing anything, is continually outsourcing its jobs to foreign powers because it has no vision for Nigerian nation states. And it is this exact behavior that will spell its demise. Mark my words, the Nigerian ruling class has no future. The Nigerian ruling class will collapse. The Nigerian states will collapse because they have no vision or plan for the Nigerian state, and it is increasingly becoming clear that the Nigerian state cannot continue in this manner. So when you want to talk about this story of America bombing Nigeria, it's not simply a story of American imperialism, nor is it even a story about oil. That one is irrelevant. This is a story about the complete failure of Nigerian ruling class to provide any solutions to the masses, the complete failure of Nigerian ruling class to even provide law and order inside of the states, and the complete failure of Nigerian ruling class to even think up of innovative solutions to our current issues. And rather than providing solutions, it chose to outsource all of its issues to foreign countries. And this is just the beginning of the complete failure of Nigerian state, in my opinion. But time will tell.
Well, breaking fuck the news if you haven't. There we go. Well, breaking fucking news if you haven't heard. We bombed Nigeria. We talked about this on Christmas Day. The problem is Nigeria doesn't even know what ISIS they have. They were confused. They didn't even know ISIS was a problem in their country, let alone that it's reports coming out that the random village that the United States bombed, they're so fucking confused on why they were bombed. They're like, what the fuck? What did we do? Well, you know, we're the heroes of the free world, right? I'll keep you updated with more.
I don't think a lot of Nigerians understand this, at least non-Arewa Nigerians. There's this massive chain, Islamic chain, that's being used to enslave a massive population of northern Nigeria. And let me explain what I mean. There are more than half of the people in Nigeria, in the north, Hausa Muslims. More than half of Hausa Muslims, and including some Hausa Christians, because Hausa Christians still have that mentality. More than half believe they will not enter heaven if they disrespect their elders. That's why a lot of the shit that's going on in the northern Arewa youth do not speak out, because there's a link between heaven and respecting your elders, apparently only in Nigeria. So that's one thing you have to understand, is a lot of youth in Nigeria, Hausa youth, are so tired. But Islam, Nigerian version of Islam, has told them that speaking out or doing anything is going to cost you heaven.